Thanks, Alice. My head's still spinning after all those problems. It's amazing stuff. So well done to you and the TWiG team. A straw bowl. Can everyone put up their hands? Just give them a shake, please. Come on, up you get. You and the camera too. So put your hand down if you live in a 1 or 2 story house in the burbs. That's me. Oh, look at all that. Keep your hands up if you live in a tall apartment block over 6 stories in height. Okay, you can put your hands down. Right, we've got 1 in the audience too. So the dwellings, not the people, in between these 2 extremes are called affectionately the missing middle. You can Google that. It's a pretty universal term. It's included in the SEQ Regional Plan, which has just come out as a draft. So we will be running an ideas competition rather than making blind decisions. We'll ask some open questions about what types of places and spaces should be in this missing middle for future generations like you and me. Now, we're seeking interactive and engagement models or tools or apps. They must be a minimum viable product. Is that correct? Thank you. What do we want out of this? Well, we want to make this fun and fulfilling, an exercise that engages with young people and the young at heart about what that missing middle might be. We want to make people aware of the infrastructure and planning challenges and solutions around housing density and diversity done well. The important thing is diversity and density done well. This is a problem facing all tiers of government and all cities and all citizens. So it's a very challenging problem, but it should be fun. Where do we live? How do we live? Both now and into the future. So are you up for the challenge? Happy to take questions.
Thanks, Peter. Must be some questions. Sounds a very interesting challenge.
Come on, guys.
Come on.
I'm standing between you and a smashed avocado.
One at the back there, Marie. So we'll get one at the back, then we'll get one in the front. Run faster.
What a workout.
So it sounds like you're asking for a game. And yeah, the one problem is that to develop a game, you really need to know very specifically who it's for. Like, are we making it for that missing middle, or are we making it for a particular age group? And secondly, not the message, but like, what is the main takeaway apart from just like increased awareness of the planning challenges? But I guess, what are you trying to make people aware that these planning challenges are difficult and it's a challenge that everyone's trying to overcome? Or do you want them to try and get involved in 5 or 10 years and actually try and solve the problem?
Well, I think there's about 13 questions in there. I'll give it a stab.
Sorry, the real question is, who is it for, and what do you want them to get out of it?
So as you can see, not a lot of people live in the missing middle. We can use terms, and we do, fairly generic terms like duplexes and triplexes and row housing and terrace housing. We even use the term Fonzie flat. Does anyone know who remembers Happy Days? Yes. All of these things are dated. Now, the missing middle is that kind of, housing diversity that sits between a house and a high-rise apartment, and it's about infill development in which people, young and old, so the end user is us, whether it be a child, someone with a disability, someone who wants to age in place, a young entrepreneur. So we're talking about workplaces as much as live spaces. Now, to move beyond kind of catchphrases, motherhood statements, we want to understand what that means. What does that term mean for Queensland? So the missing middle, we kind of banter around. If you Google it, there's 1,000 little drawings. They mainly come out of the States, and they're kind of twee new urbanism, kind of chintzy town. We want to create new urbanism for a future Queensland. So it needs to be responsive to climate. And to answer that, we need to ask an open question about what people think missing middle might be to them without resorting to a typology. How's that?
Good, mate. Very good.
Thank you, Peter. I have a question for you as well. I guess as a Queensland-based startup and SME, I mean, I think we've got part of the solution. I'm not so sure if and how it's applicable. It's probably a great segue from my colleague here staying beside me. But look, we've captured Queensland. We've captured Queensland energy infrastructure and every building through high-resolution LiDAR and aerial imagery. And we monitor in excess of about 120 million vegetation clusters within Queensland. So we're sitting on about 4 petabytes of data, and we've dropped all this into a virtual world, a virtual Queensland, as a matter of fact. And that has been dropped into a gaming-based engine to create Queensland's virtual world. And I guess in my mind, I see 2 potential opportunities. The first one is scenario modeling, whereby somebody would be able to take a look at, what the potential is for buildings and I guess changes within the Queensland virtual world, so they can get in there and take a look at that and do scenarios based on that and 3D sort of visualizations. And the second opportunity potentially would be dragging the virtual world back into the real world. And I guess there I'm thinking, taking a look at using, our HoloLens and some augmented reality, so you could take a look out there, for instance, and you could overlay, what some of the scenarios may be over a vacant lot within the context of the real world in which we live. But, so that's well and truly within our radar, but I'm not sure if that's, is closely aligned with what you'd be looking at, or, or not. I guess I'm just trying to get a bead on if that's something that...
So I'll probably answer the question. So if you think you've got a solution, pitch it.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
Do you have a specific question? Because you've told us about capability, and if you think you've got a solution, I think that's what this is all about.
It's probably less about the scenario modeling, of what's livable and what's this and what's that. And really, it's more about a real sort of visualization type approach. That's either, and I guess that's, I don't know if
Look, absolutely. I'm a self-confessed Luddite. My closest thing I get to tech is watching my 10-year-old play Minecraft. Some people talk about it being a gaming platform or a scenario platform. As long as it's fun and engaging. Like, planning's a pretty boring thing, so make it sexy and fun and engaging for the young and the young at heart. Scenario modelling is really an interesting space because it encourages people to break rules. Planners tend to codify. They codify particularly when it comes to dwellings. We want to have an open conversation around what missing middle might be without too many rules.
Thanks, Peter. Are there any other questions? Oh, we've got one.
So I don't actually have a question for you, I'm sorry. I'm Elizabeth Davis. I work with some of the people who've made a pitch down here in Metro North Hospital and Health Service, and they'll shudder that I've spoken. My question is, what does it mean when you don't ask many questions about these things, you guys in the room? Does that mean you're not interested? Does that mean you've thought about it beforehand? Does that mean, what does it mean?
I'll let you answer that.
I think it might mean that people are a bit shy. They may be wanting to reserve their position, but I guess there's an opportunity to engage and put a bid in.
Okay.
Okay, Mark, you have a...
Yeah, I guess the other thing is that if people are maybe a little bit shy, we do have the BPEs afterwards, so you can ask them one-on-one if you have a question that you might want to ask them, rather than a big forum like this, just individually one-on-ones.
I think correct. Big groups don't necessarily tend to induce a lot of discussion. But anyway. Okay. Thanks, Peter. Thanks very much. Thank you. That's...